moon. I should know not to do webinars at full moon. It's just, I should know that by now. All right, so welcome. Let's get started. And there's a few of us online, so that'll make it nice and intimate. We can have lots of chance to chat if we'd like to. And tonight we're going to deal with probably the most one of the most the laws that people bring up the most is the law of abundance, and really starting to understand what the law of abundance is around and how we can work with it. And principally, we're going to work with the law of abundance in terms of what does an abundant energy field look like? What does an abundant heart like? What is it that resonates as somebody that is open to abundance? And that is probably the most important thing, is not trying to figure out what abundance is, but figuring out, am I open to it? What are the blockages to it? What do I put in my own way? And we'll talk a little bit more around that. So before I go into sharing the video or the presentation, I'm talking about it, one of the most important things as a starting point is the awareness of the distinction between the law of attraction and the law of abundance. So the movie The Secret, or the video, the book, or The Secret, kind of talks about these all as the same thing. And we need to understand that the law of attraction is about what it is that I demand and want and invest my energy in saying that that's what I desire, that's what I want, and that whole sort of thing of visualizing, manifesting, all of that. And there's actually a third law called the law of manifestation. So we've got the law of abundance, the law of attraction, and the law of manifestation. And those three laws are often spoken about quite interchangeably. And so tonight we're going to be talking more specifically about the law of abundance. And so it's useful to understand that, because sometimes it gets confused. That we're not talking tonight about sitting visualizing your great dream and what you want. We're talking about this core principle of abundance in the world and how we navigate our lives aligning with the idea of abundance, the premise of abundance. And so we are not only talking about money when we talk about abundance. We're talking about abundance of joy, abundance of peace, abundance of love, abundance of creativity, abundance of ideas, but we can also talk about abundance of misery, abundance of pain, abundance of struggle. Abundance is a philosophy of moreness. And so how do we align with the abundance of that which serves our highest good, not with the creating abundance of that which is difficult for us? And I'll talk more about that later on. So as we go through this, it's useful for you to ask questions or clarify or make those distinctions between abundance and attraction and manifestation, because they are not, the collection of those laws is often spoken about as abundance, and that's not technically always useful. So let me share the presentation here and get us set up to do that. I think you all know each other on the call. Nadine, is there any, you've met Clive and Angela? Margot, you know Clive, I think you know each other from, aren't you mentoring? Isn't Margot your mentor, Clive?
That's right, yes.
That's right. Yeah. So by now, technically you should have met, I would imagine, or you know.
Yeah.
We've met, we still need to engage some more.
That'll happen when it's supposed to happen, so we'll get there. Right, so as I said, it's a smaller group. I'm sure if others join us, they'll come online as we go along. But feel free to interact, ask questions, share as we go through tonight's presentation around the law of abundance. And as always, we're going to start off just by looking at this card and starting to notice, what is it that stands out for you? What is it that you become aware of? And I'll give you a minute, and then each of you can actually just share it. We'd rather get some voices online tonight rather than typing. So just take a minute and notice what kind of stands out for you as you connect in with this dragonfly, this beautiful dragonfly. So if you feel like you've got something you feel ready to share first, I'll ask each of you just to share what stands out, because it can be useful to hear that. But who'd like to start off with what you notice on this card? Nadine, shall I start with you?
So when I looked at the card initially, my eye was drawn to the top left.
Okay.
And for me, it reminded me of like a beehive. And then I looked deeper in, and then I realized what it was.
Okay.
But for me, the essence of the card brings forth the manifestation and the flow of possibilities. Like if you look at the card at the bottom, there's all this possibility that's all it almost looks like paint all over the place, but it's possibilities of what could become into fruition.
Okay. It's interesting, that sort of beehive feeling that happens when you see it's the flower of life. Yeah.
And then I realized it's the flower of life, and I'm like, okay, it's the starting point of.
It's quite interesting. I just want to find this other card to show you, because they, interestingly, so this is the law of gratitude. So there you can see the actual.
Oh yes, okay.
So can you see the like? So it's
Yeah.
when you see it as that, and how the gratitude and abundance go together in that way.
Yeah.
Who wants to share next? What kind of jumped out to you? Just, Clive.
Yes, I saw the flower of life straight away,
Okay.
and then I felt that beehive effect. Saw that.
Okay.
Then what struck me about the dragonfly was that if you look at its head, it could be looking up and down.
Okay. So
it's like two-headed, yeah.
Okay.
Which I found interesting. Yeah.
Interesting, hey? So this idea of, are they looking this way or that way? There is a play on perspective there that kind of happens. So that's very useful to see. Beautiful. Angela?
I see kind of a lot of colors, and a lot of the same colors in different spots, almost like there is more than one thing. You know, there's this like how you say, kaleidoscope? No, so when you look, kaleidoscope.
Okay.
And so you kind of see the same colors in different places.
Okay, beautiful. So, I mean, a lot of sort of abundance stuff is noticing connections, noticing how things relate to each other and how much there is of the same sort of thing. Beautiful. Margot, for you?
So quite similar to Nadine and Clive. So I really love this image. It's kind of soft and nurturing and fertile, and so very much the honeycomb kind of feeding on the kind of sweetness of life is kind of a sense I get. So not an industrious kind of busyness. Just for me, it's kind of really nurturing and fulfilling and enriching. So those are the kind of words that come up for me.
So really beautiful words. I love that it's not an industrious thing, but there's action. It's like but it's playful and it's gentle, and so that starts to bring in a really important distinction. Is that a lot of the law of abundance, which is different to the law of manifestation, the law of abundance is a feminine energy. And if we look at the typical ways that we want to make things happen in life, it's quite a masculine energy. Let's have a plan, you must do it, you must work away, you must get there, that sort of thing. Whereas the law of abundance is sort of more like a creative, natural, harvesting kind of energy. It's a place of patience. It's a place of, I love the idea of this harvesting. So if we even think of harvesting honey, harvesting seeds, harvesting what is there, there's working with the flow and knowing timing and all these sorts of aspects that are important around about abundance, is rather than trying to, make something happen at my timelines. I wanted to get everything to work the way I think it should. The law of abundance says it's there, just there's a little bit of a connect in with it, chip away at it, have patience with it, play with it, explore it, rather than have to have it your way. So this sort of challenge is that we have a world that's got sort of instant gratification that kind of happens in it. And interesting, the law of abundance says you can have everything you want immediately, but you've kind of got to be available for it. And that availability's got to do with your energy. If you're so busy, there's no availability. I'm going to say that again. If you're so busy, there's no availability. Then how can you possibly show up to what's available? And that's half this industriousness, isn't it, Margot? You and I know it so well when it comes to the world of the corporate space and work, and all of us experience that. Is that like this, we're so busy, there's no space for abundance. There's no space for pleasure, for joy, for the experience of things. Yeah, gifting and receiving. So we're going to talk a lot about that. So we're going to leave this card up a little bit longer, and I'm going to read you a poem. It is quite a long poem, so as I do it, I'm going to read it quite slowly. I want you to just notice what stands out for you, and you can even jot down some points. I have put the poem on the following slides, but for now, I'd like you to almost just listen to it and notice the words that come up for you as I talk through this. This is a beautiful poem by Jeff Foster. If any of you have done any of Jeff Foster's work, or he's a phenomenal writer and author and spiritualist, and talks a lot about beautiful principles, especially love and relationships. And he's got this beautiful, I call it a poem, called The Essence of Abundance. And for me, it captures a lot of the law of abundance quite beautifully. So take a minute, it is quite long, as I said, and just listen to what comes up for you. It says, you don't really want what you think you want. You only want your wanting to end. To no longer want for anything. To existentially be full and complete. But isn't that just another want? Perhaps the biggest want of all. Do you really want your way out of wants? What do you really want? Want actually means lack. So now the question changes. What do you really lack? Do you really lack anything in this moment? Thought says yes. Thought lists all the things that are missing. Thought advises that certain objects, people, experiences would complete this moment for you. Thought is always seeking. It is always comparing. Thought says, if you get what you want, the lack will disappear permanently, and this moment will be completed. Get what you want, no more lack. Do you see the trick here? This is a mechanism perfectly designed to keep you away from what you really want. So what is true abundance? It's not about getting what you want. It's not about filling a lack. It's about realizing that the present moment never lacks anything. It's already full to the brim with sights and sounds and smells, with thoughts and feelings, with colors and shapes beyond imagination. A thought or a feeling of lack, a sense of something missing, is actually part of this moment's completeness, not a threat to it. Part of the richness of now, not an enemy. a welcome visitor in the vast open space that you are, an old friend come for tea. Space lacks nothing, for it is full with everything, pregnant with possibility, rich with potential. The mind confuses peace with absence, space with emptiness, and unlimited capacity with lack. And the game is on. The search for opposites, the longing for goals. You don't really want what you think you want. And that's why getting what you want doesn't satisfy you for long. Who you really are does not want. Who you really are has never heard of lack. It is already satisfied with this moment. For it is this moment exactly as it is. This is true abundance. Remembering who you really are prior to time and change. These are the unparalleled riches of the universe. A breath, the simple feeling of being alive. Getting what you thought you wanted, acquiring all the material and spiritual riches of the universe, doesn't even come close. This moment is a strange and unexpected jackpot. So, curious to notice what stood out for you as you experienced that. I have got the words up and we can play with it a bit more. But anybody wanting to share what came up for you or what struck a chord for you as you heard that essence of abundance by Jeff Foster? Margot, is there something you want to say? You look like you want to speak.
Yeah. So it's a beautiful poem and not new to me. So if I reflect on certainly, I mean, the first 2/3 of the poem, this is kind of everything I know, and it's reinforced a lot in the work of the Access Consciousness kind of crowd. So I was kind of completely familiar with all of the concepts, but I think what really struck me sort of towards the middle and the end is this is my. And it's weird, huh? So the kind of conditioning around self-actualization and the seeking of growth and improvement, and there's always more, and versus true potentiality. So you know, my mind. So, and this is the crazy thing. So actually, logically and consciously, I know all of these things. It's in the practice and the tension between self-actualization, seeking behavior, and just the presence of now. So for me, I haven't yet mastered this. So I can do it, but I haven't mastered it.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful reflection, as this idea of self-actualization being something we pursue, something we chase, something that we move. You know, there has to be something almost unresolved or broken that we have to improve and fix, versus the completion of the current moment, being with the lack of that and allowing what's next to emerge, and allowing that sense of joy and peak experience and expression to emerge in collaboration. I think it's a tension that is the paradox. Remember, like the laws always bring these paradoxes into, like, but it's a real one. It's very real. Perfect. What stood out for you, Clive? If I had to pick on someone.
Not much. And I'll say that because I don't think I have enough reference points to understand some of what he was driving at.
Okay.
In writing it. So for me, I would have to look at the words again and reflect on them to really. They didn't land on me because I didn't have the right sort of airstrip waiting for them. Yeah.
So it's a really, really beautiful reflection, because one of the things that is part of the law of abundance is this, it's tricky. It's hard to actually figure it all out. It kind of feels elusive somehow. And when you read his words, there is almost this perception of like, well, what are you trying to say? And almost like trying to find in between the spaces, which is a very curious part of the law of abundance in itself, which we'll play with. So I think it's a lovely reflection of your experience. Nadine or Angela, anything come up for you in particular?
For me, it's like the concept of living in the present and in the present moment, and stop this mind mechanism of longing something that you don't have.
Yes.
And how that kind of mechanism is itself is constant. You want something, you might get it, but then you want something else. So you want something, you don't get it, and you keep longing, as opposed to focusing on the present, which is the joy, is where life is. It's not in the longing, is in the present.
And this is the major challenge between the law of attraction. If we look at the book The Secret, which is probably the most well-known one, not necessarily the best one, but the well-known one around a manifestation and this sort of thing, is knowing what you want is important, but live like you have it, is what the law of abundance says. So don't live in the lack of that. Live like you're experiencing it. And that's a true marriage between the law of attraction, is know what I want, but don't live in the idea that you'll get it. And don't live in the lack of it being here now. Live in the experience like it's part of this. And this is what Esther Hicks and Abraham Hicks's the vortex is live like you have it. And so that's the ask, believe, and receive. The ask is knowing what you want. The believing is actually the law of attraction. And the abundance is the receptive part of receiving it. But you can't be chasing it to receive it. And I'll talk more about that difference now. Nadine, what came up for you, my love? If anything in particular.
Similar to what Angela and Margot were saying about being in the moment and wanting something else.
Yes.
So, and yet in the moment, it's perfect because it's part of the whole.
Yep.
So my mind's trying to figure out, I think it's what Margot was talking about, self-actualization and goals, and that kind of, like, we live in a society where we want this and we want the next thing. It might not be good for us or whatever the case is, but there's always this and I guess it's the societal way we live is, in order to, like, if you're in a corporate, in order to become a manager, you need to climb the ladder. And how do you bring those two worlds
together
and live in abundance with all these other rules that are artificial, effectively, but they're part of a system? That's kind of what's kind of coming up for me, is this systemized way we live.
Yeah.
Which doesn't feel like it flows or fits in with the spiritual law.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it starts to introduce us to so many of these challenges, of these paradoxes, of these confusions, is that being goal-orientated, having dreams, coming up with plans, doing what we need to do, are all accurate and valid strategies, but not if you're living from the place of scarcity. And when we live from the place of lack and the place of scarcity, you will continue to have scarcity and lack. And I love that paradox of, even in the current moment, not having something is part of the completeness of this current moment. Yeah? That's going to mess with our heads a little bit. I did a reading once for a woman, and it was such a beautiful description of this, as they used the metaphor of the bee. And you can see the honeycomb sort of idea there. And if we look at the bee and the flower doesn't chase after the bee to be pollinated. The flower doesn't go chasing after the bee, going like, oh, where's the bee? Why is there no bee? Why is the bee coming to that flower, not me? The flower just blossoms and attracts the bee to it. And the B will come, and what will manifest itself will manifest itself. So this distinction between chasing after rather than attracting to is a large part of what the law of abundance is about, is how do I blossom so much that I attract to me that which is mine, that which works for me, that which I need, that which is my gifts, and allowing that to come to me, and then receiving. Not when the moment comes, blocking all down and going like, oh my God, there's a bee. You know, like really allowing what needs to happen to happen. And most of us, our problem is when it shows up, we back away. We hide away for lots of interesting reasons. So the law of abundance has got this, abundance doesn't work for the mind. The mind does not believe in abundance. The mind has a natural scarcity tendency. It's always looking at what's missing. That's the gift of the mind. As Margot says, the mind is a beautiful thing, lose it. No? As the mind is programmed to look at analyzing things and looking at the problem and where's things missing and what's going wrong, as opposed to everything's perfect just the way it is. And truly allowing that to not feel like you're stagnating or giving up, because you're not. So the words to the poem are on here. So Clive, there'll be plenty of time if you'd like to go and work through the words one by one and notice them. Some of the things, as I pointed out to you, just to notice this. Want actually means lack. So what do you really lack? Do you really lack anything in this moment? Thought says yes. And I love this line, it is always comparing, because that's one of the challenges we've got with the mind, is it compares current me to future me. It compares the version of me that exists in this moment to an idea in my head of a perfect version of myself, and says I should be like that. And the comparison of future me to current me means I'm not good enough. And in that I'm not good enough, I live in a very limited version of myself. I'm not blossoming, and so I don't attract that which I want. Say a little bit more, Nadine, of want versus need. What's the question you're asking there, or the awareness you're having there?
From my history, one of the arguments that my ex-stepfather used to use on me was, why is it always that you need to tell me when you're going to the shops, like, what do I want? What about what I need? And he had this like differential between the two. And when I looked at, so again, I also get more information when I read rather than hear. When you say want actually means lack, does need also mean lack?
So what's your intuition around that?
So I'm thinking need is a basic thing, like I need to breathe,
Okay.
to live.
Mm-hmm.
Versus a want is something slightly, it's different. It's not that I want to breathe. It's like I want something else. Like I want money, or I want an object. I want a physical thing. I want a relationship. I want, there's, I don't quite know how to articulate the difference between the two.
So it's a very useful thing to start sitting in the energy of them, and start noticing that there isn't a distinction between one being right and one being wrong. There is also not really a distinction between one being I have to have and the other one being I would like to have. Both of them are accurate. I need to breathe, I need to sleep, I need to eat, I need to, have relationships, I need to do these things. They're all accurate as statements, but when that need starts to become something that consumes you because you don't have it, then that becomes the challenge. Now, something like air, if I don't have air, that's going to be something you're going to need to deal with. So needs are more immediate in the sense of me needing to rectify it for survival, needing to rectify it for my sense of self. the challenge with this is that we have distortions. We think I need a BMW to feel safe when actually you don't. You might just need, to be able to get somewhere. So that distortion has got nothing to do with what the need is. It's got to do with the ego's attachment to certain things. And that's got to do with our wounds and our experiences and so on and so forth. And so truly distinguishing what we need from the way we'd like to have it met is a valuable insight into ourselves. And again, not right or wrong, because one of the most important things about the law of abundance or the law of manifestation is you're allowed to want. You can want whatever you want. So to truly step into, what do I desire? What do I wish for? What do I want? What do I crave? What excites me? You're allowed. You don't have to convince me that's a need. You're allowed to want a lot of money if you want it. You don't have to apologize for your wants and your needs and your desires and your wishes and all of these things. But it's that relationship between am I allowed to and the emotion I have with them that impacts abundance. So the more people can say, I need this, I want that, the better that is for all of us. Is in a relationship, one of the best things that can help relationships is when you tell somebody else what you want. I want you to make the meal. I want you to, massage my feet. I want you to run me a bath. And if they say no, you will survive. So being okay with what I want, but also not depending on what I want to make me feel okay. And that's the distinction. So these are complicated ones. These are the things that are challenging for us all in this place. Margot, does an infinite being truly need anything? So what are you saying there, Margot?
So quite a lot probably. So it does come back to that present moment, and being in allowance of our awareness of our infinite beingness.
Yeah.
So it is, the more I can tap into, the more I can lose my mind, the more I can tap into my awareness, the more I'm actually in the present moment, the more possibility there is.
Yeah.
The more possibility there is, the more connected I am to my infinite beingness, and that anything is possible. So that I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And it's a beautiful way of putting it, because it's in desire, not lack. It's not in the place of I need something for survival, but it is in a I wish and a desire and a demand. And when we do the law of decree in 2 weeks' time, the demanding energy is like, let's get clear about what you want. Like, demand it, and so it is, and so it shall be. But when it's coming from the place of possibility, of allowance, that's very different from going from the place of jealousy or lack or feeling unworthy or undeserving or any of these things. And so abundance is a frequency. It's just a frequency. Am I in the frequency of abundance, which is the frequency of I am, all is possible. Everything is possible. But I'm not dependent on it to feel worthy. I'm not dependent on it to feel safe. I'm not dependent on it to feel loved. I'm not dependent on it to feel any of these things. So we've removed the dependencies. That's why this law has come so late in the series, after detachment and flow and faith and grace and vibration and all the things that we've been talking about. It's like, how do I live in the allowance of possibility, knowing that all is possible? Everything is possible. I had a client,
and also and also allowing for miracles to show up, huh?
Exactly. So that law
without condition, no conditions.
Exactly. Beautifully put. I had a client the other day, and one of the things is she keeps chasing feeling safe. If I have this amount of money, I'll feel safe. If I do this degree, I'll feel safe. If this person commits to a marriage for me, I'll feel safe. You'll never feel safe, because you're placing your safety in something outside of you. So the law of abundance says, learn to feel safe internally. And you can value the things around you that support that. But don't depend on them for that feeling, because you will always be chasing. And that's what makes this law a tricky one for us to play with, is even as I say these things, I know your head can go, oh, what the fuck? What do you say? Needs are normal. You're just a needy human being. Like everybody has needs. You're allowed to need it. And everybody has wants and desires, and you're allowed to. There's no shame in any of this. And you're allowed to ask, and you need to receive it. And when you ask, damn well receive. Don't ask and then protect yourself when it's made available. And we'll talk about that a bit more now. So let's have a look at the next the next lines of the poem. Hello, Leanne, welcome, my love. Get what you want, no more lack. Do you see the trick here? I think that's such a beautiful line. So you can have a look. What is true abundance? It's not about getting what you want. It's not about filling a lack. It's about realizing the present moment never lacks anything. So that bottom lines there, those are the ones that resonate for me very strongly. Space lacks nothing, for it is full with everything. Pregnant with possibility and rich with potential. So those of you that have been doing some of the courses, and last week we spoke about the Vesica Pisces, and we spoke about how the portal between the past and the future is the present moment, which is that void of possibility. Pregnant with possibility. But I have to sit in that space of nothing. So the space for abundance in your life is a really important thing. And just think about the paradox of that. You need to make space for abundance. If there's no space in your life, no time, no space, there's just chaos, all the things around you are cluttered, there's a space for abundance. There's a space of no mind, exactly as Marco says. And this is why stillness, which we were talking about last week, is such an important thing. Of like, abundance happens when you're available for it. Abundance happens when you're available for it. And if you're not available, it can't show up in your life. The mind confuses peace with absence, space with emptiness, and unlimited capacity with lack. And the game is on. The search for opposites, the longing for goals. And that's why getting what you want doesn't satisfy you for long. Anybody had that experience? You've been chasing. You get it and it's like, oh, that's nice. Now what's next? And I'm like, I really thought I'd feel better now. I really thought that if I got this, I'd feel great. If I got the approval I was seeking, I'd feel valuable. If I got the relationship I wanted, I'd feel loved. If I got the money I desired, I would feel this. The truth of it is that these two things are not related. Self-worth is not related to chasing after things. And the law of abundance says, see your own worth. Value yourself. That's this infinite being that Margot's referring to. Connect to the fact that you're full and whole, and then all is available. But when you're lacking, then you're living in the idea of lack. So the law of abundance fundamentally asks you to step into the true knowing that you're an infinite being of light, that there's nothing missing. There's nothing wrong with you. There never has been. There never will be. You're perfect right now, just the way you are. There's nothing to add. There's nothing to take away. There's nothing to change. There's nothing to do. You're perfect. Now from that place, go and create your life. Because when you create from there, everything is possible. But when I'm coming from the place of lack, chasing after what I need to feel better, everything moves away. Because think about it, if I start chasing you, and many of you have heard me say this before, but if I start chasing you, what will you start doing? Are you going to stand there and let me catch you? No, you're going to run away. It's called catches for a reason. If I'm chasing, you need to be running. If I'm chasing after my goals, chasing after my dreams, chasing after my desires, it's running away, because that's the energy of it. But if I'm attracting, allowing it to come to me, which is not an inactive place, by the way. I need to take action. That's not chasing. It's creating. It's allowing. This moment is a strange and unexpected jackpot. I thought that was a lovely line. I think it's going to be one of my new lines. When something confuses me, I'm going to, this moment is a strange and unexpected jackpot. What the fuck is this moment about? Help me see it. Yeah. Nadine, nothing is missing in each moment. Presence brings awareness of the space, which brings possibilities and flow. Beautiful, hey? So anybody having any thoughts or questions or insights or confusions, anything that anybody wants to say? I think Clive's lost his connection. He's trying to get back.
Yeah, Taryn, so I want to say, instead of looking for what it is you think you need or want,
Yes.
it's about looking for miracles to show up. So exactly that frequency. So kind of, waking up every day and saying, so what would it take for me to see more miracles today? So it really is just getting into that frequency of possibility and allowance of things showing up in a way that you don't expect.
Exactly. And then when they show up, say yes. So I'm going to amplify that point. I've worked with many people about relationships, and it's a really interesting way of looking at it, because there's so much guidance or so many tools around. Write the list of the perfect person you want. Write the list of what you want. What's the profile of the person you want, and then put that away, and the law of abundance, that will be delivered. Bullshit. You don't know what you want. And you've wanted the same thing over and over and again, and it's really not working for you. So rather than doing that, write the list of how you want to experience a relationship, who you want to be in it, and be that person now. So if I want to be supported, be cared for, be supported and cared for now in your life, allow that to manifest itself. And so, I learned this lesson the hard way, in that I decided my heart was ready for healing. And so I want a relationship that will heal my heart fully. I did not expect the package it showed up in. I did not expect it to be a polyamorous man where I'd have to deal with loads of my insecurities and jealousies and all sorts of things that did not even begin to enter my mind. If I'd written a list of what I wanted in man, I promise you, Eric would not be in my life. But has he been the relationship that has healed my heart? Absolutely. And when he showed up, all the guidance I got was, do not run away. Just say yes and allow what you asked for to happen. So that's the tricky part, is you don't get what you want. You get what you need. And then you have to allow that to work for you. Yeah. Exactly right. Now, this doesn't mean if somebody's treating you badly, you stay with them. That's not what it is. This is learning to trust how you feel rather than trust what you think. Because if it feels good, it can't be wrong. I'm going to say that again. If it feels good, it can't be wrong. So when the universe sends you what you need and it feels right for you, even if your mind says no, that's how you work with the law of abundance. So the law of abundance is about alignment with divine flow. Diana Cooper has a beautiful way of talking about abundance. She says, abundance is your divine birthright. There is not that some people deserve abundance and others don't. Abundance is your divine birthright. It is a process of showing up to receive what is available to you, rather than trying to make something be what you think it should be. And so everything is available to you. The question is, are you open to receive it? And do you show up and allow yourself to receive it? So the more you live in the idea of lack, the more you navigate life from the perception of lack, the more you will manifest more and more lack in your life. If I'm chasing, you're running. If you're running, I'm chasing. Very tiring game, by the way. And so abundance is everywhere. It's not only about money. Abundance of ideas, abundance of support, abundance of guidance, abundance of kindness, abundance of generosity, abundance of connection, abundance of possibility, abundance of creativity. I mean, I've never heard somebody say, I've run out of creativity. There's just more and more and more possible. It's just, and any of you that have done creativity, Angela, you've been on a big creative journey lately. The more you create, the more ideas you have. And the more ideas you have, the more you create. And it just becomes an infinite loop. And that's why the infinity symbol is often the symbol used with abundance, is that we have to show up and do what's asked of us. And then more and more and more is created. Challenge is rising above the patterns and the distractions. Exactly right, Margaret. So we're going to spend a little bit of time, and some of you have heard this before, especially if you did healing your relationship with money, but it's really an important aspect, and you will always hear something again for the first time. It will always be new if you allow yourself to show up with a beginner's mind and a beginner's heart to anything, because you've never been in this moment, and you've never been who you are, and you've never been able to hear what is happening right now. And that's the present moment. The beautifulness of each moment is that when we show up willing to explore this moment like it's the first one, like it's the first time I'm receiving it, like I'm just gonna take in what's going on here like a sponge, then that is actually the law of abundance in its generous spirit. You know, when you kind of show up somewhere and you go like, oh, I've been here before, I've done that. No. In that very minute, you're in the place of a scarcity because you expect everything to be different to how it is. So how do you embrace each moment like it's the best moment you've ever had? And so when we start to look at scarcity or abundance, this picture is the best one I can come up with at this point in time. But because we all know the benefit of this winter time and so on and so forth. But this is essentially looking at this tree and seeing this. So if you imagine that my perception is that when I look at something that has this, all I see is this. And that really is what perception is all about, is noticing the possibility of what this is, or being attached to the permanence of what we think this is. Because when we look at a tree, we know we can look at the beauty of this moment because we know it flows into that moment. But when this is what our bank account looks like, we don't see that. We just see this. And then we start getting attached to this idea of scarcity. So scarcity has a number of dynamics, and it's the lack. Scarcity is literally, it's got an experience of fear behind it continuously. And the mind in its fear will always find some aspect of scarcity. And being able to look at the scarcity and notice it and see what's possible is the work of integration. It's the work where we allow ourselves to be supported in the abundance of possibilities. And so scarcity has these sort of feelings or words attached to it. And you can think about this and look at your own behaviors, and it's a very fascinating thing to do. I remember being in a shop once with those of you that knew her, Margot will know her, Karen, my best friend who passed on. I was in a shop with her daughter many years ago, and Stacey turned around to me and she says, "Why do you buy two of everything?" I said, what? She says, there's not a single thing we've walked past that you haven't bought too. I said, well, I don't want to have to come back to the shop. And what if they run out? And she said, what if they run out of what? Like, and it's such a striking memory for me, because in that moment I realized that my underlying fear is that there's not going to be enough. So I always have more than enough of everything. You know? I always buy 2 of everything. I always make sure that there's a backup, there's a supply. Now, that could be an efficiency strategy as well. There could just be an energy of like, you know, making sure that things are efficiently run. But notice for yourself, if it's going to be about, it's going to run out, there's not enough, there's not going to be enough. And you can look at the world at the moment. The minute coronavirus hit, toilet paper became an issue. Yeah. I mean, I came home and I had so much flour in my house. My daughter had gone ballistic with crap at the shops. We didn't know where to store stuff. You know, that sort of hoarder part of us. And it's natural and it's normal, but it's noticing. And the world is really in I think we're in the pandemic of scarcity as opposed to the pandemic of the virus. The virus is plenty abundance. It's just showing how things can flow very quickly. But this fear, there's not enough, it's going to run out. I'm scared, there's not enough for me. That leads to competition. So we compete with other people. And we compete with other people in very interesting ways. And many of us will make sure we have enough of what we want, but then we live in the guilt of having it. So this competition and this guilt that goes together with it. So we compare ourselves to other people all the time and what others have. And we either feel inadequate or we feel guilty. The inadequate is, why don't I have enough? The guilty is, I have too much and others don't have. So that comparative competition is a very, very, very interesting thing to start noticing, particularly if I don't have enough, I feel, you know, like not worthy. And if I have too much, I feel guilty. It's still scarcity. Thank you so much, Margot. I'm just letting Clive in for those of you that are wondering what's happening. Just trying to get back in. Thanks, Margot. So when we're bringing up these sorts of feelings, play this as a game. Start to notice with a little bit of humor yourself in these experiences. You don't need to sit here and go like, oh my God, I'm doing abundance wrong. That's not what we're going to do. It's so much more about, okay, so how do I shift a pattern, an experience, a life goal, a group consciousness, all these things that exist around scarcity? How do I interrupt that so I can do abundance, so I can live in an abundant way? And so competition, it's not enough. Jealousy is one of the most amazing emotions to tap into. Jealousy always, always, always is giving you insight into the idea that you're not good enough through comparing yourself to somebody else and looking at what's missing in you. You're not seeing what exists in you, you're seeing what exists in somebody else and saying, why is it not in me? And we see this in relationships a lot, don't we? We see a lot of control and ownership and all these sorts of things. So there is a distinction between jealousy and envy, and that's an important thing to notice as well. Is jealousy informs you of a fear of something that you're not worthy enough in. Envy gives you information that like, oh, I'd love that too. I'm not trying to take it away from that person. Oh, I'd love to also go to the Bahamas. Oh, I'd love to do that. Oh, I'd love to do this. So envy is an energy of attraction, whereas jealousy is an energy of lack, which is interesting to notice. Scarcity is also a holding on energy. I had a friend of mine ask me if they could have a bottle of wine the other day, and it took all my energy to go, yes, yes, you can have one of my bottles of wine. I don't know when I'm going to be able to buy more. But this whole energy of it's mine. You can't have it because I want it. So we hold on to things, we hoard things, we keep it. And it's interesting to notice, as I say, with a sense of humor and a light heart, how we play into these games. We also trade off as a scarcity energy. Trading off is coming to compromise. It's saying, I'll give you this if you give me that. Is what I'm giving you worth the same as what you're getting? I'm a bartering. You know, it's a sense of looking at the world through a sort of, I won't give up anything unless I get something. So when I do some of my corporate work, I do this very silly exercise where I give the guys, I put them into groups, and they automatically assume they're teams. And the minute you put people into groups, they compete. It's the most amazing thing that you can ever see. It's like, you're team A and you're team B. It's like, it's your friend. You know, I'm going to compete against you now. And they straight away go into competition mode. And then I give them a puzzle, 24-piece puzzle, without a picture, and they have to make the puzzle. The first group to finish the puzzle is the winner of what, I don't know, but they win. You know? And the trick in it, obviously there would be a trick, is there are pieces missing. And the pieces for my puzzle are in your puzzle box. And it's fascinating human behavior to watch what happens in the moment that people realize that I have your piece and you have my piece. And to notice who walks around giving the pieces away. And who walks around hungry onto a piece and going like, that's my piece. When you give it to me, then I'll give you yours. And this sort of energy of withholding before giving, and giving before receiving, and noticing the pattern that you have around that. Is winning more important than collaborating? What are you even going to win? What is it you're trying to achieve here? It's trade-off. I'll give you my idea if you give me your idea. This is all scarcity mindset, all scarcity behavior. Yeah. So trade-off, protection. This is mine. You can't have it. We've spoken about that. And then a really, really useful one to look at is the idea that I have to earn my living. So we've used the words earn. I have to work for what I have. I need to earn my place. I need to work for what's mine. I must suffer and struggle to have the reward, in other words. Like, I can't just receive abundance. And you'll see people talk about this quite a lot. You know, I can, I'm going to the spa because I've had a rough week, so I'm paying myself. You're allowed to just go to the spa. You don't have to have some struggle that's justified your joy. You're allowed to just have fun. Yeah? It's my treat for myself. It's my way to pay it back. Is this whole idea of working for reward, earning my way. And another word that people use here is I deserve it now. Always deserve it. I remember the first time somebody asked me about the word deserve and their deservability. And the guides just laughed. They said they don't understand the word. There's nothing you need to do to deserve anything. You don't have to prove yourself. You just have to make yourself available for it. No? And so then controlling. We've looked a lot at the law of flow and the various other laws. So you already know a lot about those. But when I'm trying to control everything, there's no space for miracles, as Margot has been talking about, as she has been reflecting so beautifully through this. So, abundance. It's more than enough for everyone. There's more than enough air, there's more than enough money, there's more than enough. And so, we're living in this time of economic struggle. And truly looking at, there is more than enough money for everybody. There is more than enough work. There is more than enough. It may not be distributed in a way that is allowing everybody access to it. I was reading a book this week, which is called The Healing Organization, and it's really it touches on my heart a lot around how workplaces create struggle and misery for people as opposed to creating space for healing. And there's an organization in New York somewhere, they moved into a place where poverty exists all the time. And obviously with poverty comes crime and gangs and addictions and people with going to prison and so on and so forth. And this person started a company 30 odd years ago, and the only entry point to getting a job is putting your name on a list. You just have to give us your name and your cell phone number. There's no background checks, there's no prior records, there's no what is your qualifications. Everybody starts as an apprentice, and in the first year, everything that we would have spent on checking you, we invest in you. And they've built up a company where people just heal because they're given a chance. There's more than enough. There's all you'll need is here. So we create blockages for this. We create blockages for there being enough. Keeping people out rather than sharing and creating space for collaboration. So there's so many ways of looking at what's the barriers for abundance rather than is abundance available. And that's the key way to think about abundance after tonight is what's the barrier to abundance? If abundance is natural, what's the behavior trait here that's separating us from abundance? What keeps it blocked? All I need will be provided. And this is the distinction also of you may not need what you want. You can ask for what you want, but you'll get what you need. So that distinction there. Faith is the opposite energy of fear. Moving from competition to collaboration. Moving from jealousy to trust. Moving from holding on to let it go, release it. Everything you give away needs to go where it needs to go. And I'm purposefully saying that you're not giving in order to get. So people say everything you give, you will get back tenfold. Please let that statement go. It is one of the most dangerous statements and keeps you very blocked from abundance. Because then I am not giving it just to release it to where it needs to go. I'm giving it with a bind that I expect something back. And that bind is a trade-off. That bind is I give it with condition. And that stops flow. So from protection to alchemy, from protection to flow, from earn to create. So you don't have to earn a living. You create a living. You don't have to earn money. You create money. You don't have to earn credibility. You create credibility. And for me, when I've worked with people, this has to be one of the most important shifts. Is working for something rather than creating something. Rather than deserving, allowing, and controlling to surrendering. So you can sit back here and notice for yourself, if you look at all of these that are on the screen as almost like continuums. So competition to collaboration, jealousy to trust, holding on to letting go, trade-off to alchemy, protection to flow. And just notice for yourself, which is the one or two that stand out where you tend to default to scarcity? Do you tend to default to holding on? Do you tend to default to earning, to controlling? What's the tendency for you? Just notice one or two that you can start off tonight just noticing that that's a place that I tend to default to. And you're going to get to share that, so you can just share it out loud. What's your awareness around the places you default to? Anybody willing to share first if there's one that stands out for you? Margot?
Yeah, so I would have to say protection.
Okay.
Protection as compared to flow.
Okay. It sounds like you're trying to process something around that.
Yeah, because logically I've kind of been working on all of these things for years and years and years now, and yet somehow I find myself still in distraction and patterns. So the realization now is that it's kind of like quite a deep-seated protection mechanism.
Almost instinctual, like you don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yes, and exactly. So I mean, at the moment, I honestly feel like I'm in survival mode as a means of protecting myself. So and what I desperately am looking for is more flow. So yes, quite exactly.
Okay.
A nice awareness. Thank you.
So noticing the triggers that have created that for you, and there's a lot universally. So please also know in group consciousness, this is very activated at the moment. The shift of 3D to 5D is a lot of this. And all of us have had some sort of financial impact through some of the experiences, but protecting my ideas, protecting my turf, protecting the plan, protecting the strategy, protecting the skills, protecting the people. I mean, one of the biggest ones is protecting my people. From what? From themselves. You know, protecting my children, protecting my assets, protecting these things. So all of that energy is part of this. Yeah, it's a great awareness. Nadine, any stand out for you?
None of them jump out because
I've
worked on this with you a lot. But if I reflect back over the last couple of months, I think things going to run out. Like business wise, I think that would be one of them, and the fear of like, oh, am I going to have enough to pay my staff? And you know, that's kind of what triggers me. I thought it might be trade-off, but trade-off I've moved away from it. That used to be my key thing, trade-off earn, and it's interesting that it's changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, when I listen to you through some of the sessions we've been doing lately, the going to run out and the controlling,
Yeah.
You've worked hard at this of surrendering it, but the idea of where's it going to come from, and trying to control that's part of this.
Yeah, and it's interesting when I release it and I like it will flow, and there is always. So there is flow, and like I think it's that surrender. When I surrender the control, and I like believe, and I like move into that, it will be provided. I don't have everything that I need now because I only need it later. So it's that everything that you have in the present moment is perfect. It's not when you need it, it will be there. So that's a trigger.
And even going further, so you need the current moment the way it is. Like you need the current moment to be what it is, so that you can experience it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we work with Archangel Raphael just now is we all have an abundant, prosperous blueprint. We're just living this as opposed to this. And so reinstating our blueprint for abundance, for prosperity, for receiving is one of the things we'll work with Archangel Raphael about now. Anybody else want to say anything? Angela or Clive or Leanne, any of them standing out for you that you'd like to share?
For me, is I mean, I think this Corona is really giving me a big lesson in life. I mean, I'm someone that it likes to plan, to have like the next things and the next things ready. And sometimes I have a plan A, B, and C. So I'm okay. I go in the flow because I know I have plan A, B, and C lined up. So whatever happened, it is kind of thought through. And this Corona has completely kind of removed away that kind of ability to plan anything. It's just we are now stuck at home. The only thing I can plan is, do I have the color to paint, or like when I don't work, you know, like it's so the lesson on surrender is a big one for me this year.
I love that you know, I'm not in control. I just have 4 plans. Like Yeah. It's a high level of mistrust going on there, yeah. Claire, for you?
Sure. What came up for me was definitely fear. I think a lot of my decision making has been around fear.
Okay.
2 weeks ago, I made a decision where I went through fear, and I think I made the right decision. It might still cost me in the end, but I'm changing that mindset. But certainly, I think for most of my life, I think a lot of my decision making was fear based.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I loved is we talk a lot about, you know, we have a choice in every moment, and your life is defined by the choices we make. And there's a level of truth in that statement, but the greater truth is what's behind the choice. Is we can make a choice from fear, or we can make a choice from faith. We can make a choice from scarcity, or we can make a choice from abundance. So the choice itself is not as influential in our life as what is the driver of our choice. Exactly as you say, is that I've made the decisions from fear rather than from the place of, and this is natural for us. It's a normal thing for us to do. Leanne, is there anything? I'm not sure if you want to add something, my love.
My two are just really control and not enough are my strongest ones, I suppose.
Okay. So these are great awarenesses to start playing into and start noticing your own relationship. And one of the ones that's come up lately, which isn't listed there but useful to notice, is that one of the things around, it's like a subtlety that exists in this pattern, is the idea of trying to make things permanent. So I need to have the commitment so I know it's permanent. I know this job is permanent. I know this relationship is permanent. I know this thing is permanent. And truly realizing that nothing in life is permanent. Like there is nothing permanent. Everything is fragile. Every relationship will end. Everything that you once thought of, every contract you've had, sometimes it lasts a bit longer than other times, but nothing is permanent, including yourself. The only part of you that's permanent is your spirit. But everything physical is impermanent. And that abundance is truly that faith in the impermanence, because then it can evolve, then miracles can happen, then things can change. But we try and hold on to things to make them permanent in our lives. And this shift from permanence to impermanence, to feeling safe in impermanence, that's high level scarcity to abundance stuff that we need to start playing with. And one of the things the coronavirus has come along with, 2020 being the energy of everything that you believe is permanent can be destroyed. All the foundational things that you believe in are being disrupted. And so we're dealing with impermanence, and death forces us to deal with impermanence in many ways. So that's a subtlety that's valuable to also play into and explore in terms of how that manifests itself for you. So before we go into the meditation tonight, abundance is a choice. Absolutely, Margot. It is a frequency. It's a chosen strategy, is that I choose abundance over scarcity. I choose to collaborate rather than compete. I choose to surrender rather than control. I choose to do these things. This is consciousness. I become conscious of the choice I can make here. And I don't work in the autopilot of what is presented to me. So giving and receiving, which is the final aspect of this before we go into the meditation tonight, is that we need to truly, truly know, have you got the hand open for the baton? If this is the universe, the divine, and remember the law of attraction, you've asked for what you want, you've decided what you want. Are you available to receive it? And if you use this idea of the baton being transferred, if we understand that relay race kind of feeling, is when the person running up to you with the baton gives it to you, you can't be trying to control what they're doing. You have to be trusting they're going to put it in your hand, and you have to be available to receive it naturally and easily, and then run your part of the race. The more controlling you are in that moment, the less opportunity you have for the flow to exist. And are you available? Are you sitting there with your hands open? When the baton is put in your hand, do you take it? Or do you get such a fright you drop it? Or do you get so performance anxious that you don't, show up waiting to receive? There's so many ways of looking at this. And we need to know that giving and receiving is also an energy of your giving to others. Do you hand things over? Do you release? Do you if I'm giving you something, I give it to you. I give it so you can go run your part of the race. I don't try and control what you must do now. When I hand you something, like, that's yours now. Do with it what you want. And so we need to start understanding this whole giving and receiving flow in the universe. And there's some really important aspects of this, is that you might find you feel better in this masculine energy of giving rather than being in this feminine energy of receiving. But the universe is asking for harmony here, for flow. And giving is controlling, receiving is vulnerable. So when you give, start noticing how you give. And those of you that have done the Healing Your Relationship with Money, you'll know we've spoken about this quite a lot. The first thing and the most important thing is please give for free. Give without a bind. Don't make your giving a trade-off. Now that is very different to saying that when I offer you a service, you pay me money, because that's an exchange that brings accountability. So I'm not saying I'm going to give this to you for free. I'm saying like this is an exchange of an offering. But when I give you a meal, it doesn't mean I expect you to invite me back for a meal. When I give you a gift, I don't then compare how much your gift has been to me to make sure we're spending the same amount of money. When I give you a compliment, I don't expect a thank you. I expect nothing. I give it for free, with no bind. If I give money to somebody on the side of the road, I don't tell them what they must do with it. It's their money now. If they want to go buy drugs, it's their problem. If I give you anything, I give it with the freedom of your choice making, that you can do with it what you want. I give you the baton, go run your race. And so I only can give what I have. Most of us give what we want rather than giving what we have. And giving is a really beautiful thing to do, but binding people with it is not. And it's a big thing that we do. Receiving, say yes, show up. When somebody offers you help, say yes. Somebody offers you a cup of coffee, if you feel like coffee, say yes. If somebody says, can I do this for you? Yes. When somebody gives you a gift, I was at Nicolette the other day and she said, I want to give you this. And I said, but why? I don't need it. She says, Taryn, can you receive just because it's available? No. Is when somebody offers you something, say thank you and move on. And the idea with receiving is you can pay it forward rather than pay it back. Because when I have something to give to somebody else, I will give it to somebody else. I don't need to pay this person back what they did. So we continue the flow of abundance rather than the contract of bind that exists often. Now, one of the things that came up today, and we're going to finish off here, and then I'm going to take you through the meditation, is that you can receive on different levels. And I want you to notice this for yourself. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but receiving on the physical is different to receiving emotionally, receiving mentally, and receiving spiritually. So let's talk about physical receiving on the physical plane. This is often sexual receiving. The act of sex is a real giving and receiving act. that feminine act of opening up and the masculine act of dominating, that's a natural connection point. And so you can notice on the physical level, my own resistance to softening. And in the masculine, it's a softening energy to allow intimacy into your life as well. So that emotional aspect, that often if we look at the emotional thing of, the physical thing of receiving money and receiving care and receiving all these things, but we can really, in many ways, translate our relationship with the sexual acts in our lives down to a lot that's got to do with the law of abundance. And this dominance of giving and receiving, and that dance of giving and receiving and noticing that. Emotionally, how comfortable are you receiving support when you're feeling down? Do you let people care for you? Do you let people hold you? Do you let people sympathize or empathize or create space for you? Are people allowed into your life when you're scared, or do you push them away? Do you tend to withdraw, or do you tend to allow yourself to connect with others? Can you be cared for? Are you easy to love? Which is a very, very difficult thing to ask. It's when somebody says, can I help? How are you? Do you allow it? On the mental receiving, can you receive new ideas? Can you receive inspiration? Can you receive challenge when somebody disagrees with you? Can you receive new thoughts? Are you quite attached to the way you think something is? And on the spiritual, can you receive guidance, intuition? All these things, and we could probably explore this for days if we take these 4 aspects. But on an essence level, on the core of you, are you available for abundance? Are you open? Are you receptive to receiving? And so we're going to end off tonight, and I know it's quite late, so we'll ask him to keep it short. The Archangel Raphael doing a meditation for us. And the way that he refers to it is really restoring us back to what the natural state of receiving is, and healing our barriers to receiving. The Archangel Raphael is well known as the Archangel for healing, but many people don't realize that he's the Archangel for abundance. And there's a trick there, there's a clue there, isn't there? Is that to embrace abundance, we need to heal things that hold us separate from abundance. Does anybody want to ask or say anything before we go into the meditation tonight? All right, so I'm just going to switch this on, and then you can get comfortable and we'll start. And like I said, I'll ask him to keep it short. Okay, so take a minute just to create a space for yourself. So imagine you craft a little bit of space around you. Do that in whichever way feels natural and normal for you. Just imagine yourself settling into this moment, the perfection of this moment. Craft out some space, so allow yourself to notice your breath and your energy just taking up some space around you. Letting yourself embrace the perfection and imperfection of this moment, naturally and easily. Just become aware of the sounds around you, the feelings around you, the air around you. Just settling in. As you do that and allow your mind to naturally be reflecting on anything that has been provoked through tonight's conversation, just noticing your own thoughts about abundance. Become aware of them. Welcome them in. Your thoughts are allowed in this space. Just become aware. What's the most predominant thought you have around abundance at this point? Do not resist it. Welcome it into your space. Become aware of the feelings you have around abundance at this point. What's the most predominant feelings coming up for you at this point in time? Just welcome them in, whatever they are. They're welcome in this space. Become aware of your physical experience of abundance in your life. What's the awareness you have around your physical experience of abundance in your life? Just welcome that in, notice it. It's allowed. Move your awareness to the story you have about the divine and abundance. The relationship with your spirit around abundance. Just notice what comes up. And welcome that in to your space too. There are many dynamics, stories, and experiences around abundance in your life. Just notice all of them at this point and allow them to settle naturally and easily into the space with you. As you sit contemplating in this awareness, there may be new thoughts, new ideas, new emotions that arise. Welcome them in too. Allowing everything to exist as it is in this moment. And you notice Archangel Raphael coming towards you. In whichever way he presents himself to you, he makes his way into the space easily and naturally. bringing with him possibility, bringing with him peace, bringing with him answers. As he joins you in your space of contemplation and reflection, he notices the stories you have, feelings you have, the experiences you have with abundance. And he is able and willing to help you sort anything out in these reflections that need to be sorted out. Can help you transform, understand, remove, shift, amplify anything that's going on in this space for you. And so he asks me to be quiet for the next minute or two, whilst he shows you anything that can shift or heal or change in these stories and experiences for you. As you notice what he is showing you, become aware of opportunities for welcoming and more abundance in your life. Ways that you can shift to a frequency of abundance, choose abundance, live abundantly, play abundantly, explore abundantly, and receive abundantly, and even give abundantly. As he just sorts through any resistance with you. Restoring you back to the most natural and easiest place. of abundance within you. Notice as he shows you how to feel abundance, how to think abundance, how to act abundantly, how to be abundant in your life. One last scan of your energy field removes any blockages that are available to be removed at this point in time. As he steps away, getting ready to leave this time and space, he shows you a pathway ahead of you, pathway of possibility. Notice it. Notice what he shows you on that pathway. Notice its availability to you. The choice is yours to make, he says. As he steps away, allowing you to come back to this time and place. Ready to take the next step in your journey to abundance. You can wiggle your hands and your toes. Take a deep breath in and come back to the here and now, knowing he is always available to you. Right. So there you have it. If you haven't fallen asleep, and thank you for joining me tonight. And I hope that you've found some flow towards more abundance in your life from tonight. So, sending you all lots of love and hugs and kisses. And I'll see you all. If anybody want to say anything before you leave, you're more than welcome to. Otherwise, you can just stay in this place of creation. Okay, perfect. Namaste. Cheers.